Thank you for clicking on this Fun with Pete and Jerry video. I am your host, Mr. Julian, and I thought today I would go ahead and get down to these Dalmores that I have never reviewed. Dalmore 12, Dalmore 15, Dalmore King Alexander III. Let's jump right into it. Dalmore, as you probably know or may know, is part of the whiskey empire of Richard Patterson. I don't know exactly which corporate entities own which. He's one of the best, one of the greatest entertainers in the Scotch world, and just a decent human being, just a truly decent human being, or at least he seems that way. Treated me as if I were somebody, didn't have to tell him I did Scotch videos. He just treated me like I was somebody because I was somebody. That's a pretty rare thing. I didn't review the Dalmore in the first couple of years of doing Pete and Sherry because I the 12-year-old stuff that was all around, and it was not as good as it is. I'll tell you today. It had a very kind of a strong wild cherry cough medicine-y taste that I they the Scotch goes through cycles. As has been said by others, it turns out to be very true. Let's have so look and see what this 12 is actually like. This is made with a combination of whiskey, bourbon whiskey casks and sherry casks. Okay, smell. There's some cherry flavor that you can still detect. It's not that ultra sweet cherry flavor, and some marzipan in the glass. Whew. Wow, sweet and nutty up front, almost like a Nutella, and cherry, fruitcake. Marzipan. The smells going into this like you got a really rich whiskey on your hand. This would be a smell you could associate with the best whiskeys. So let's give it the final test. Basically getting the follow through from the smell, but it's a bit more subdued on the palate than you would guess. It's smooth for a 12-year-old, and it goes down very easy. And afterwards, the fullness of the flavor really comes in late in the event. You do start to get that the cherry and nuts. An extremely drinkable 12-year-old whiskey. He said, drinking the whiskey. And I would say, in its current form, what I'm seeing here is very much the equivalent of the very good Glenfiddich that I've been drinking around here. I've had a bad Glenfiddich too, but that was the weird one that came in a jug with a closure. This. I'll give an 8.4, the same as I gave that. It's the same style of whiskey. Very full Scotch. No hint of peat here. Good, rich, fruity complexity. All right, moving right along. I think I'm going to stick with this glass. So I'll have to have smaller sips. 15. Here there's what there was in the other, but it's more distant, and there's also like maple syrup. Maple syrup is a little stronger here. And that's about all. This one is slower to give up its secrets, and it stays even slower than the 12, which was slow. Let's go ahead and get some of this in my mouth and see what happens. It's not lacking any boldness, though, on the palate. Um, yeah, that's a really good. That's a really good flavor. I'm getting actually a hint of uh, buttered, not buttered popcorn, but like caramel popcorn, and still that rich, dark red cherry depth. Still going. Still going. Good long finish. Long. Think of this as like, if these were pills, this would be like the extended release version. Around the edges, tiny little hints of citrus too. Number 15, I'll give it an 8.75. 8.75. Now, this King Alexander the Third is not easy to get a hold of. I had this imported from UK. It's a mere 70 centiliters. And oddly enough, served at 40%. And that's odd because they go to great lengths to make this a flavor that or a whiskey that people are going to want to try. It goes through about 5 different casks, pretty much everything you can imagine. But nothing to really say what's going on here on the bottle. The Dalmore Staghead, by the way, is very reminiscent to me of A Song of Ice and Fire. It looks like Robert Baratheon's symbol, but its story is more similar to that of Sandor Clegane. Who he was, but the ruler of the Dalmore area saved a king's life when he was under attack from a giant, powerful stag, and got the right to exclusive rights to distribute whiskey as a result. And or so the story goes. And I believe that was King Alexander III. Hence the name of this scotch. That smells awfully beautiful, but I can't really tell you too much. Yes, now this is a sweeter nose. Um, yeah, you getting more maple syrup. If that, and I'm not so much detecting the hard bottom cherries. Oh, yeah, it smells like brown sugar and cookies. I think this has been through among those five casks a dessert sherry or two. At first, you're getting a good scotch, full and round and sweet, and with a little drier bitterness towards the end. Soft, no sharp edges here. Let's see what happens if I take a bigger sip. Wow, that's the real taste, isn't it? The real test. You can have a really large gulp of a whiskey, and you're still liking the flavor. Yeah, what you got here? There is, I think I can pick up the oakiness from all the extra maturations here, in addition to the sweetness and the strong finish. Maybe hints of pineapple even towards the beginning, and then marzipan, maple syrup, sweetness, hint of cherries at the end. Although this is a very, very good scotch, in some ways it is, to my mind, it's less assertive of its identity than the 15, which I think is probably my favorite of the three. This has some hints of wininess that are not maybe 100% what I would choose. So I would say, if you really want a good Dalmore, you can buy the 15, and if you really want a good trophy piece, buy the King Alexander III. Don't buy the King Alexander III because you think it's going to be that much better than the 15. It really isn't. It's not too different at all. And I think because it's lost some of its characteristic identity. It's not to me as enjoyable, so I would give this an 8.5 with Dalmore. And that's all I have for you tonight. Sure, if you'd like to get rich, to check out my new web series, A Newer World, and I'll put a link to that in the comments. And once again, thanks for coming.